Welcome back to our Kelly Files special. Who is teaching our kids? They used to describe college campuses as a sanctuary for tolerance and free speech, but not anymore. These days, conservative thought is often shunned. Speakers who don't toe the line are finding themselves banned. Our next guest is a tenured professor who got to thinking after receiving an angry note from a critic. That critic accused this conservative teacher of being, quote, the biggest embarrassment to higher education in America. Well, our guest took exception to that, and his epic public response went viral. Mike Adams is a professor of criminology at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, and author of Letters to a Young Progressive. Professor, thank you for being here. So they thought you were the biggest embarrassment to higher education. You said, upon further study, it appeared that you weren't even the biggest embarrassment to professors in North Carolina. And you had a long list of people you felt were more embarrassing than you. Maybe walk us through a few examples.
Well, it's amazing. You know, I got a letter from Ed, who was an email actually from Ed, who was one of my critics, and he'd read something I'd written on townhall.com and couldn't believe that a university professor believed in traditional marriage. And he responded and said, you're the biggest embarrassment to higher education in the United States of America. And so I decided to just kind of publish a greatest hits of absurdities that I'd written about in higher education over the last decade or so, writing for townhall.com. And it's incredible. As you go through the list, you see that many of the examples come from higher education here in the state of North Carolina within the UNC system. And you also notice that a lot of the examples come from women's resource centers and LGBT centers, which is a huge part of the problem, because in your special, you've been talking a lot about college professors, and they are indeed a big problem. But we also have the administrators who set up these administrative offices, and they campaign for unrestricted abortion and gay rights, and they do a lot of things that are just political in nature and very radical and often highly sexualized in nature, and it really doesn't have anything to do with scholarship at all. And that's why I often refer to the UNC system as the DNC system. You know, that's one of the examples you gave was a university that encouraged folks to go to an abortion event. You call it a pro-abortion event. I assume it was a pro-choice event in any event. But you're saying that they were selling T-shirts that read, I had an abortion. This is straight out of the Gloria Steinem playbook. I mean, to celebrate your abortion. Yeah. You may feel one way or the other on abortion, but to run out there loud and proud celebrating, you know, the end of a pregnancy is a little beyond. Oh, yeah, that was actually on our campus at the Women's Resource Center. They were selling T-shirts that said, I had an abortion, to UNC Wilmington students to wear around campus to brag about the fact that they'd had abortions. And we've had other events like that. Our LGBT Center leader and Women's Resource Center leader were recently photographed in front of a sign on campus that said, good women have abortions. And so they're actually celebrating it. And not only that, but they'll sponsor groups like NARAL and refuse to participate in events with pro-life groups. They choose sides on controversial issues, and they're just paid to advance their politics. And the taxpayers have to pay for it, and that's the real tragedy. Well, what of the argument that the professors reflect the student body as opposed to the student body reflecting the professors? You know, they come in, they're 18, they tend to be, you know, more left-leaning. Most folks do when they're young, and they get more conservative as they get older, if you believe what you read. So what of that argument? That's just false. In fact, it's backwards. What we find is, for example, that about 2/3 of the church-going kids who go off to college at 18 leave the church, and many of them abandon their faith. Well, why? Because they walk into the classroom and they're experiencing not a university, not a free and open marketplace of ideas, but instead an ideological echo chamber. And that's the shame. And the response to that is not to take a look at liberal professors or leftist professors and try and shut them down. It's to expand the marketplace of ideas by allowing conservative voices. And that's why I've been so outspoken ever since I converted a number of years ago. Well, it's incredible. Just to look at the list, you pointed out that one feminist professor believes women can replace men with dogs. There was a women's study professor who co-sponsored a panel on bondage. There was a UNCW professor who posted pictures of nude underage children as art. There was one seminar on how to appreciate your, let's say, the end of a sexual encounter. Let's put it that way. Professor, thank you for being here. Thank you so much. And yet the professor was the most embarrassing professor on earth because he believes in traditional marriage. He's clearly a conservative man, while the vast majority of his peers are not. But is that a problem? Our next guest says, no, it is not. When we return, somebody from the other side
when we return with Who is Teaching Our Kids.
When pain goes deep, I use Salonpas Deep Relieving Gel. This powerful gel rushes 3 pain fighters deep into my muscles. It's fast melting, quick absorbing, penetrating deep relief.
Salonpas, powerful relief when and where you need it.
If you're suffering from joint discomfort, get your life back fast with Arthro 7, formulated by our team of doctors for people who want a more natural, clinically proven solution to their joint discomfort in as little as 2 weeks. Call now or find Arthro 7 in the